Welcome to Mini Fights. I'm your host Brian, and today we're doing something a little different. I'm not playing. It's going to be Bill and Andy playing, and I'm actually filming from the third person. You can see I'm kind of going to rotate around the table here, but then I'm going to post up there on the side of the table. So the entire game is going to be shot from that side, and otherwise the format will be pretty similar. Bill and Andy decided to play Gamma Waves and Mystic Herbs, and that is a mission that only allows for 15 points. Now, Bill managed to squeeze 5 models into his 15 threat list. He's playing the Wakanda affiliation. Andy's actually not playing an affiliation at all, which I think is the first time we've ever done that on the channel, so that's cool. And he's got a little more of an elite list with 4 models total. So Bill had priority, and he just double advanced his Black Panther up. He did not pick up the herbs on his side, though. He's waiting on that. And back to Andy. Andy's going to activate his Black Panther. Advances. Advances again. Picks up the herbs. Pretty typical first Black Panther activation on this mission. Bill Shuri's going to double advance to the center Gamma Shelter. And Andy Shuri is going to hop up onto that dumpster, and she's going to get the Wakandan Black Panther in her sights. And she's going to use her Panther Gauntlets to attempt to put a little damage on him and probably push him away. And that's about what happens, minus the damage part. Doesn't end up doing any damage at all, but of course does the automatic push and generates a little bit of power for Shuri, which is, pretty much what she does. She's just a battery. Well, not just a battery, but that's one of her many qualities. Bill Okoye is going to advance and take position on the shelter on his side of the table. Andy's Venom advances and then climbs. Well, actually, I guess it would just be an advance. He doesn't need to climb. He has Web Crawler. To the center there, he just has enough. Essentially, where he's placed there, he's exactly within range 1 of the center objective. And of course inside the shelter. Bill's Crossbones advances and advances again. A lot of double advancing here in this first round. I think that's pretty typical. You can score a lot of points off the shelters, so you can see that kind of counterplay occurring already. Back to Andy. Danvers is going to advance towards the center. Did some very precision measurement by moving the building. Looking for an energy blast on Crossbones. That's her favorite thing to do on Earth, but not in range. After some deliberation, he ends up kind of pushing her forward onto the herbs that Bill needs to pick up. And Zemo's going to advance forward. And at this point, Bill does something pretty interesting. He's going to end up actually using the Advanced R&D card now, just to push 1 power from Shuri to Zemo. And typically, she's going to push more than that usually, but he put that second power on Zemo, so now Zemo's got 2, which is going to allow him to charge Andy's Captain Marvel. And you can see by his positioning, he's obviously got his eye on the herbs there. He's going to strike her. And with his various rerolls and such, he's got the Strategic Genius reroll built in. He's going to do 4 damage to Danvers, which is a pretty nice roll. Danvers is a little kind of vulnerable to physical. Andy's kind of double move there made her sort of vulnerable to this happening. And he's got enough power now, of course, to pick up the Wakandan herbs and end his activation. That's going to end the round. Bill's going to control the shelter on his side and the middle shelter. Andy controls the shelter on the right side, which is closest to him. The score is going to end up being 3-1 to Bill. Now, in this particular mission, because the gamma shelters protect you from the gamma, but as if you're outside of them, you take damage, Bill's Black Panther, which we're going to refer to as Wakandan Black Panther or the true Black Panther, takes a point of damage. Zemo takes a point of damage, and Captain Marvel takes a point of damage because none of them are in shelters. Basically, those three characters on screen right now all take damage from it. So back to Andy. He does what you do. He binary forms Danvers because she's got the power. She's going to unleash the sun's vengeance on this impudent Baron. Zemo's going to end up taking a total of 5 damage from the energy blast and is dazed right there and is going to drop the precious herbs. Danvers uses her second action to advance towards the middle there. And then she's going to use the advanced R&D card to push a power each to both Shuri and Venom. With the power that Shuri has on her, she's going to use 3 of it to patch up Danvers, getting her back into fighting shape, because I believe at this point she was on 1 HP left. So nice combination of dazing a character and chaining up into a patch up on Danvers, and of course Danvers is binary form now as well. Now back to Bill, you can see him waving around that tactics card. The Wakandan Shuri is going to do a coordinated attack with Crossbones on Venom using the Trip Up tactics card. So Crossbones is essentially the tripper and Shuri is the attacker, and she's going to blast him with her Panther Gauntlets, which is going to push him off the building, deal the point of damage, and stun and stagger him. And at this point, she's going to turn and point both of her fists at the imposter Black Panther here, dealing a damage to him and shoving him all the way back to this ice machine. The imposter Black Panther is going to advance along next to, well, no, on top of this Hot Boy spec Subaru WRX. He's going to launch a pounce from that elevated position, dealing 2 damage to the Wakandan Shuri. And powered by the herbs, he's going to strike Shuri for 2 more damage and push her off of the Gamma Shelter. So the real T'Challa is going to stalk towards the wounded Captain Marvel. He strikes her with his vibranium claws, and after the various rerolls that are generated by Wakandas and Shuris and all that stuff, it's just going to fall a little bit short of getting her to the threshold where she would be dazed by the gamma damage coming later this round. He ends up picking up the herbs and skedaddling, pouncing away from her towards the center shelter. Venom is still reeling from the trip-up combo attack he took earlier. He's going to have to spend an action to shake Stagger. After that, he is going to unleash his Clintar Rage, throwing the loyal Wakandan Shuri into her brother. They're both going to take a point of damage, and then Venom is going to advance to the center shelter. And that's going to be his activation. And back to Bill. Wakanda Okoye is going to decide to show her the true power behind the throne lies. She's going to level her spear at the stunned Venom, fire the vibranium blast from it at him, and ends up dealing 3 damage to him after various Wakanda and upgrade rerolls. She's going to do it a second time and deals another 3 damage to Venom. And at this point, he's nearly dazed and is not sitting on very much power because he's been stunned this whole pretty much this whole round. the imposter Shuri is going to climb up onto the Gamma Shelter at the top of the Eternal Games building and fire a pulse of energy at the Wakandan Black Panther. It's going to deal no damage, but it's going to push him away again, and it's going to farm her a little bit more power to use for her upgrades ability later, which is the common theme of this game. There's tons of upgrade rerolls occurring in this game. Back to Bill, he's going to immediately trigger Wakanda Forever. Shuri is going to use that to take a Panther Gauntlet's attack at Venom, who has 1 HP left, 1 stamina left. And this is going to end up dazing him. And then Crossbones is going to activate, and he's going to strike the Imposter Black Panther for 1 damage after rerolls. He's going to do a second strike, and that will also deal no damage. So essentially just 1 damage over the 2. And then the last thing that Bill is going to do on this extremely long activation of Crossbones here is he's going to have Black Panther patch up Shuri. And if I remember correctly, this was for 3 damage healed. I don't think I noted it though while we took the game. So that's going to be the end of the round. Bill's going to score another 3 to Andy's 1. That's going to make the total now 6-2 to Bill's Wakandans. And in the cleanup phase, Wakandan Black Panther, Zemo, and Captain Marvel all take damage from the Gamma. So Andy's first activation of the round 3 is going to be Captain Marvel activating, and she's going to throw a dumpster at Wakandan Shuri. That's going to deal 2 damage to her. She's then going to Energy Blast her, which is going to deal enough to finish the job, dazing her. And her last action is going to be an Energy Blast into the Wakandan Black Panther, but that will not do any damage to him. It cannot pierce his vibranium suit. Wakanda Black Panther is going to advance to the center shelter and strike Venom. And it's going to end up dealing a point of damage after the various upgrade and Wakanda rerolls, etc., etc. Andy decides to show Bill why that was a bad idea. He's going to trigger so many snacks on Venom. He is going to use the tendrils to deal a couple damage to Black Panther and bleed. And that's going to leave him at 1 stamina remaining with no actions left and bleed. So he gets dazed during his own activation, which is a pretty nice swing for old Andy. The herbs are too important to allow them to fall in the hands of imposters and aliens and such. So Wakanda Black Panther is going to use the mission objective card, and the herbs are going to end up in the hands of Okoye, at least for now. Now Venom's going to turn his alien eyes to Okoye, lash out at her with "We Are Venom," and instantly daze her. The herbs are going to drop to the ground from her nerveless fingers, and he's going to heal for 1 point of damage. With his last action, he's going to strike Crossbones with his tendrils, but has less luck against him and deals 0 damage. And Bill's Baron Zemo is going to advance to the herbs and scoop them up. Andy Shuri is going to sprint and leap off the top of the Eternal Game Store, make a flying leap over all the various characters in her way to get within 1 of the Gamma Shelter objective on the side of on Bill's side of the table. Crossbones thinks this is a good idea too. He's going to climb up on top of the game store and advance to the shelter on Andy's side of the table. So essentially just crisscrossing. Those are worth 3 VPs when you take your opponent's side. Back to Andy. The imposter Black Panther is going to climb up onto the roof of the building and pounce on Crossbones, dealing 2 damage to him. He then strikes him, which is going to hurl him from the roof away from the shelter objective, but otherwise really deal no damage to the thickly built brawler. And that's round 3. Andy's unaffiliated imposters hold all 3 shelter objectives. He's going to score 6 points to Bill's 0, and the score is now 8-6 with Andy leading. Baron Zemo is going to take a point of gamma damage, as well as Captain Marvel. This is going to end up dazing Captain Marvel and flipping her to her injured side before the next round starts. So back to Bill. Wakandan Shuri is going to unleash the stored power in her Panther Gauntlets at Venom in the form of a Sonic Crush. Sonic Crush is a high dice energy attack, which is what you want to hit Venom with, but it disastrously only deals 2 damage to him and doesn't trigger stagger. Venom chuckles, and his symbiote strikes back, dealing 2 damage to her with the So Many Snacks ability and We Are Venom attack. That heals him back for the damage she dealt to him. Undaunted Shuri is going to Sonic Crush the stunned Venom again, this time dealing 4 damage to him, as well as staggering him. Venom no longer finds this very amusing. He is staggered, stunned, and near death. Andy's Imposter Shuri, which is the one on the left side of your screen closest to Bill, is going to blast Baron Zemo with her Panther Gauntlets, dealing no damage, but generating some power for herself, as usual, and pushing him down the boulevard. And due to her incredibly long range on her attack, she is still within range of him, so decides to do it again. This is going to sting him for 1 damage, generate a little more power, and push him even further into the distance. Crossbones overpowers the imposter Black Panther, who is up on the roof there, dealing huge damage to him and dazing him. He does not, however, trigger the sort of teleport he gets on a wild. Now Black Panther, or I should say Imposter Black Panther, is not close enough to use mission objective to hand off the herbs to any of his squad mates, so he's going to end up dropping the herbs off the side of the building. And then Crossbones is going to use his second action to climb back up onto the Gamma Shelter and claim it for Wakanda. Venom activates. Does not have a lot of power on him, but he's going to shake Stagger. He's going to hit Wakandan Shuri with his tendrils. And after a pile of various upgrade rerolls from Andy Shuri, he's going to deal enough damage to remove the loyal Wakandan scientist from the game. So first casualty is Wakandan Shuri. Venom still has enough power on him to do a web snare, and he is going to web snare Crossbones right off the Gamma Shelter. So his capturing of that Gamma Shelter was short-lived and end Venom's activation. So fueled by the Mystic Herbs, far in the distance Baron Zemo comes charging from way downtown into the Imposter Shuri. And he's going to deal 4 damage to her with a Steel Rush. And Steel Rush allows him to make a medium advance, or I should say a medium move. I don't think it's an advanced action. After the attack, so he ghosts past her in a beautiful display of skill, and he is now standing on the friendly side objective. With his second action, he delivers the coup de grace with a strike dealing enough damage to daze her. Captain Danvers is going to hurtle towards the Wakandan side Gamma Shelter. And as she lands, she's going to pick up Okoye and throw him at Zemo but Zemo manages to artfully dodge the flying Wakandan and take no damage. Okoye sees Venom is nearly dead, and she unleashes a couple of sizzling blasts from her vibranium sphere, each dealing a point of damage to him, and finally mortally wounding the symbiote, knocking Venom out of the game. The stuns on Venom were very clutch here. That would not have happened if he hadn't been stunned for the majority of the game. The loyal Wakandan Black Panther, who's kind of the violet-colored one, who's now on the right side of your screen, he's going to climb up and advance to the Gamma Shelter on Andy's side. Now, Bill is going to end up holding 2 shelters to tally 4 VPs to Andy's 0. The score is going to end up being 10-8 to Bill's Wakandans. The reason that Andy doesn't control the Bill's side Gamma Shelter is that Danvers was injured, and he didn't realize it when he threw her onto the point, so that really didn't end up doing him anything. It was a fairly costly mistake. So, beginning of the round 5, the last Shuri standing, which is Imposter Shuri, is going to Sonic Crush Baron Zemo, instantly killing him and sending the herb container clattering down the street. She turns her Panther gauntlets towards Okoye, and she's going to deal 1 damage to her, power up a little bit, and shove her down the boulevard into the light post. Okoye gets to her feet and thrusts her vibranium spear at Captain Marvel, dealing no damage, but it does end up triggering a second attack, a free strike, that does deal 2 damage to Captain Marvel. And with her remaining action, she's going to limp to the center Gamma Shelter, determined to hold it against her enemies. Danvers is going to advance to the center point there, which we didn't quite get on camera, but she's now on the center point, and she's going to throw Okoye with a Danvers special into Crossbones, which removes Okoye from the objective and deals a point of damage to both Okoye and Crossbones. Danvers then is going to Energy Blast Crossbones, and he's going to take 1 damage after he uses his Inure to Pain superpower. The real Black Panther is going to advance back to the center shelter, and he's going to strike Captain Marvel. After the various rerolls from both sides, she's going to end up taking 1 net damage, and she's going to get pushed into the blue Subaru, which again removes her from the Gamma Shelter. Now, the imposter Black Panther pounces off the game store onto Crossbones. But Crossbones is a tough dude. He just takes no damage, thanks to him being Inure to Pain. However, he blasts Crossbones with a burst of kinetic energy, empowered with his false mantle of Wakanda. Okoye knows that the Wakandan mission is nearly complete, and she throws herself in front of the attack, bodyguarding it for Crossbones, and is killed in the process. Black Panther climbs back up onto the shelter and ends his activation. Not wasting any time mourning Okoye, Crossbones is going to climb up onto the Gamma shelter, onto the store, with the imposter Black Panther, and the round's going to end. At this point, Bill scores the middle and the far side shelters, and Andy scores the one on Bill's side. So the score ends up being 15-11 to Bill's Wakandans. However, they are definitely down on attrition. Can they hold on for this last round? Round 6 of this heavyweight duel begins. The false king of Wakanda strikes Crossbones, dazing him and sending him tumbling off the side of the building and out of the shelter. He then repositions slightly, and he's going to end his activation. Andy's Captain Marvel is going to energy blast the righteous Black Panther, dealing 2 to him. Now, unsatisfied with the result of that attack and desperately needing to put damage at him, she throws the Subaru at him, and despite the 5-star crash ratings and very solid build quality of this excellent vehicle, it only ends up dealing 1 point of collision damage to him. At this point, she's going to advance to the Gamma shelter. And end her activation. T'Challa pounces forward, kind of putting himself up against the brick wall there, and strikes Marvel. This is going to push her off the middle shelter. At this point, he feels like that's all he needs to do and end his activation. Up against the wall. Now, Andy's imposter Shuri's going to scream in frustration here. She knows the battle's lost. T'Challa, due to his positioning, can't be moved from his current position. She unleashes her stored power at him a couple times with her Panther gauntlets, but because he has 3 stamina remaining, she cannot cause enough damage with her attacks to kill him, and Bill's Wakandans end up winning with a final score of 17-15. A punishing, epic battle brought to a thrilling conclusion. What a game. I would say that's probably the best game we've had on the channel so far. Extremely tight game. 15 points is a really tough proposition. You have less models total, and there's so much model manipulation and board control in both of these lists. Both players really played very well. I think ultimately, if I interviewed Andy after this one, he would say that the Captain Marvel move is probably what brought the game tumbling down for him. He really had a attritional advantage, like he had killed a lot more in that game, and he may have been able to ride that to victory late. But that Marvel move really got him. Yeah, thanks to both Bill and Andy for playing and letting me record it from the third person and just kind of be hovering over their table with a camera. They did a real great job of sort of accommodating me and letting me capture this so you guys can see it. One of the best games I've seen, in general, period, and definitely the best game we've had on the channel, I'd say. That's going to wrap this one up. Thanks for watching our 6th episode. I hope you enjoyed the kind of third-person view. I'm sure we'll be doing a few more of those here and there as our sort of number of players permits. And if you like this video, click like and subscribe. You know what to do. We'll see you all next week. Thanks.